Hello, my listeners. This is Wiktor Doctor, and you are listening to episode 33 of Good Morning BSS World podcast. This podcast is about sharing news, facts, and interesting stories and updates from outsourcing and business services industries. Today, I will do my best to encourage you to download and read your free copy of Outsourcing and More magazine, issue 55. Maybe a few words about Outsourcing and More from the very beginning. This is the only one in Europe outsourcing industry magazine which is already issued for 9 years. Yes, it started in 2011 and since then, every second month it is issued in Polish and in English and is available not only in digital form but also in hard copy for those subscribers who are based in Poland and who are interested in actually reading the hard copy, paper copy of the magazine. There are over 1,000 such business subscribers in Poland, so the topic is quite interesting for them. So every second month, Polish and English issue of this magazine is being released. Every time it has between 80 to 100 pages full of interesting content coming from outsourcing and shared services industries. But only from those industries? No, there is also information and very interesting content coming from real estate, from HR, from legal areas, but also from the public sector. Like, for example, from the investor support offices from Polish cities, but also from international invest-in agencies. There are also the stories coming from other countries and industry experts, but about that in a moment. Okay, so what is inside of issue 55 of Outsourcing and More magazine? In here you can find 92 pages. 22 articles, including 5 interviews, stories coming from Poland, Belgium, Germany, and Lithuania. 3 sections focused on business, investments, and HR. Let's go into the magazine. You may hear some noise of moving pages as I do have the printed edition of Outsourcing and More magazine with me. So, do you hear that? I hope you do. Yes, this is paper copy of the Outsourcing and More magazine, and let me introduce you some stories which you can find on the pages of this magazine. So, the very beginning of the magazine is a story coming from Magdalena Chochowska. She is the senior associate at Baker McKenzie legal agency and is sharing very interesting text about new regulations governing posting workers to work abroad. As you may be aware of that, the legal acts are changing every year, and this is also including the law focused on work. So delegating or posting workers who move to work across the world, so they move from one country to another, is of course regulated somehow. And Polish legal system is also changing every year to actually be more precise of what can or what cannot be done when sending people to work abroad. And about that you can read in the text of Magdalena Chochowska from Baker McKenzie agency. Very interesting story shared on 4 pages, and I guess for those of you who are interested in travel and work, this is quite important to get familiar with this story. Another story is coming from Digital Workforce. The Digital Workforce company is coming from Scandinavia, but they also are based in Poland. And in Poland, one of the great team members of this company is Agnieszka Brzękowska. Agnieszka Brzękowska is a communication assistant at Digital Workforce, and she is sharing some news about Roboshore. What is Roboshore and why this is named as #1 RPA service? I think you can find out from the story which Agnieszka has written in Outsourcing and More magazine. RPA, for those of you who are not familiar with this short acronym, means Robotic Process Automation. But I guess most of you already know what is RPA, as this robotics, automation, digitalization, and AI automation, I would say, is going through the world of business services since already 10, 15, maybe even 20 years. So this time, Roboshore. You can find out what it is in the text of Agnieszka Brzękowska. Let's go further in the magazine, and I am already on the page number 14, where there is an excellent story which title is Hotel, Tourism and Event Industry in the Face of a Pandemic. Regulations Worth Knowing. What it means, as you may already think about the story, it is about some legal acts, legal regulations, and what can happen within the pandemic time in the industries which are the hotel, tourism, and the events. And this story is provided to you by Anna Damas, the attorney at law in the law firm Chudzik i Wspólnicy Radcowie Prawni. To translate this name into English means that Chudzik and Wspólnicy means Chudzik and Partners, and this is another legal agency who cooperates with Outsourcing&More magazine. So, if you are a representative of a hotel, tourism and event industry and your business is run in Poland, I guess this is very good to go through this article and find out what is happening within your industry within the pandemic times. Let's go further. Those are the two texts already which are focused on the legal area of business. So the one coming from Baker McKenzie and the one coming from Chudzik and Partners. So you will not find any more legal text in the magazine, but there are many others. Like the one, for example, written by Magdalena Grzelak, marketing and PR representative coming from Digital Teammates. Digital Teammates is another RPA company who is based in Poland and is providing excellent RPA services to the market. So, Magdalena has written a text. Should you automate process in-house or outsource automation? Oh, so you may already think, why not to use automation using the professional partners outside of your company? Of course, you can do it, but you may also create your own team. So about advantages and disadvantages of if to run automation in-house or to outsource this service is writing Magdalena Grzelak from Digital Teammates. And I guess this is very good to read this story if you are considering actually moving into the automation model of your business. Then we have another big section at Outsourcing&More pages. And this section is named SSC Lions. SSC stands from Shared Service Centers, and SSC Lions is the section in Outsourcing&More magazine which was created over 2 years ago already, and within this section there are presented interviews and success stories coming from shared service centers located in Poland. Usually those are interviews with the heads of the SSC centers, and recently very often with GBS heads. What is GBS? GBS stands for Global Business Services. As those of you who are familiar with the shared services and BPO industry in Poland, in Europe, globally, you may already know it that GBS or GBC are the acronyms which are showing on the market already quite often. And a lot of local shared service centers or single units of shared service centers are becoming GBSs and provide global business support to their mother companies. So this time in SSC Lions section, we have a story coming from the company which origin is in Switzerland. The text is titled Swiss Quality and Precision are Pillars of Our Activities. Of whose activities? Of Clariant. Clariant is a Swiss origin company whose shared service center is located in the city of Łódź, in the heart of Poland. And Tomasz Leśniewski, who is the head of this center of Clariant in Poland, is telling, is talking, is sharing his best know-how about how his company is doing in Poland. By the way, if you are in Poland and if you are in the city of Łódź, I encourage you to go to Monopolis, which is a fantastic office building in the heart of Łódź. And within this building, Monopolis, Clariant has its shared service center, operation center. Great architecture, great functionality, and fantastic atmosphere inside. This is absolutely a great example of how shared service should be organized and should be managed on a daily basis. For your knowledge, this is not an simple article. This is an interview, and within this interview, Tomasz Leśniewski, head of shared service of Clariant, is answering to questions of whom? Of me. Yes, I was the person who was asking him questions about his great story of Clariant in Poland. Okay, let's move further. Then we have another story which is about coworking. Yes, to be honest, I am a big enthusiast of coworking, and in here, on the following pages of Outsourcing&More magazine, you can find out a story coming from Jarosław Bator, who is the managing director of City Space, and his story is titled Remote Working, a 30 Weeks Experiment. So as you may already think about that, yes, the pandemic has created us an opportunity, not opportunity, a necessity to work remotely. Most of people actually move to their homes, but sometimes working from home is not the perfect idea. Why? Small kids, pets, small size of our apartments or houses or just flats may not be the perfect area where to provide our work. So the answer to these troubles, to this uncomfortable situation, are co-working areas. And City Space is one of the operators of co-working areas based in Poland. So here in this story you can get a touch, get a feeling of how actually this remote work in 30 weeks experiment of pandemic times looks like, and why not to consider co-working as the location for your individual work in the further time of the business isolation. Let me underline it like that. Okay, so let's move forward. Then we changed the story, we changed the area, we moved from the legal part through co-working and RPA. Let's now drop into the security. Yes, so this is another section and another story provided on Outsourcing&More pages. And here Zbigniew Szostak, who is the head of product and solution department at 3S Group, is sharing the story where he answers the question, does business require a security operations center? I guess it does. So if you want to know what are the key areas for which security operations center is responsible for example, or why it is so important, then you should read the text provided by Mr. Szostak. 3S Group is a IT, is a telecom, is a technology group based in Poland. They are a part of the Play group, and Play is a big mobile operator in Poland, and 3S is an operator of security operations centers who are based in the country of Poland. Why not to read it? Why not to focus on some cybersecurity areas? Why not to focus on the security of your business? So here are some tips, hints, and some additional stories coming from that area. What is next? Yes, this is actually the end of the security or cybersecurity section in Outsourcing&More, and then another one is coming. This one actually is the call contact center area this time. Yes, outsourcing never-ending change. This is the title of another great article provided by Tomasz Gręcki, manager of the outsourcing area at Melon Poland. Melon is a provider of call contact center services, and in here in the article of Mr. Gręcki, you can find out some stories about why outsourcing is never-ending change, why the outsourcing industry is all the time adopting to the needs of their clients, why it's actually growing every year and is becoming a great opportunity, a great option for a lot of businesses, not only in the pandemic times, but in the regular, let's say, business times. Yeah, why not? Okay, then we have another great part of Outsourcing&More magazine. Actually, the main part. This main part is the main interview of the magazine. And this time, this is a story about powering virtual teams. The author, not even the author, the person who is answering questions related to powering virtual teams is a great international coach, Peter Ivanov. He is a manager, an entrepreneur, and virtual teams expert with over 20 years of international experience. He is also the author of best-selling book Virtual Power Teams. But this is not the only one of his books. He actually has just recently wrote another one, and it is also focused on powering virtual teams. He actually has foreseen a long time ago, a few years ago, that the teams will be working from many spaces, many places, and he focused his knowledge, his experience on analyzing and on motivating the teams to work professionally and with all of their power, not necessarily provided in the places of work, but from the places of homes, of remote offices and similar areas. So great story. Peter Ivanov, he was actually also recently in the month of November 2020 a special guest of one of the great conferences in Poland. This conference was organized by Pro Progressio and the city of Bydgoszcz, and the title of the conference was GBS Talks 4.0. Peter Ivanov was the keynote speaker on that event, where he shared his best know-how, his best knowledge about powering virtual teams. So Virtual Power Teams is his one book, Power Teams Beyond Borders is his another book. It is available on Amazon, and Peter is not talking only about his books, but about his experience and the main subject of this interview, which is how to power the virtual teams. Okay, this is quite long interview, so it will take you a while actually to go through that, but I will just skip it and go to another section. Another section is already focused on the investments and the news from the world. Yeah, I know that you are listening here, you're hearing here the pages which are moving all around, but now I found what I wanted to found. So the first story in the investment section is office markets in southern Poland. This is a great story of two representatives of Savills company in Poland, Agnieszka Kułen and Bartosz Plewa. Those are the representatives of Savills who are focusing on the real estate potential of southern Poland. So such cities as Krakow and Wrocław, which are actually in the top three cities where the BPO and SSC industry is locating in Poland, are sharing their best information, their best know-how about the potential of those two cities, about how the situation in Krakow and Wrocław looks like in 2020. So those of you who are interested in real estate industry or in locating your business in Krakow or Wrocław in Poland, this is a text must to be read on Outsourcing&More pages. Let's move on. Now time for Africa. Africa, where I am talking to you from Poland, from Europe. Yes, Africa. This is another story of a great person, of a great enthusiast of BSS industry, of Mr. Elias van Herwarden. Elias is supporting a lot of BSS investors for ages. I guess this is already over 2 decades when Elias is helping companies to choose their best place to grow the operations center for their business. And this time, Elias has focused on Africa, sharing his information and his best know-how about BSS clusters located in, for example, such countries like Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt, Kenya, Ghana, Mauritius, or South Africa. Yes, those are only 7 examples of already developed destinations in the country of Africa, but those of you who are interested in BSS industry and so far were focused only on Asia or on Europe or on South America, I think it is good to also take a look on Africa. Elias is a great author of stories on outsourcing and more pages, which are being presented in the year of 2020, and this is already another example of a great story he is providing. Okay, so we have the Africa behind us. Let's now move to Europe. Yes, Lithuania's GBS community thrives in the new normal. This is another great story coming from Invest Lithuania. The author of this story is Laura Kavaliauskaite, the head of GBS and ICT team in Invest Lithuania. Yes, Laura is actually a very experienced person who knows about the GBS industry in Lithuania, everything. Yes, I met Laura many years ago, and also other colleagues from the team of Invest Lithuania. And Lithuania, since already 10 or maybe even 15 years now, is growing rapidly when it comes to the size of the type of the GBS industry in their country. Yes, so a lot of investments actually are appearing in Lithuania, not only in Vilnius, but also in few other cities. And in every issue of outsourcing and more, since 2 years already, we have stories coming from Lithuania. If you are interested in that destination for the BPO and SSC industry, the story of Laura is absolutely must to be read in this time. Then we move to Poland. Yes, Outsourcing and More magazine is being released in Poland, so you should not be surprised that on the pages of this magazine you can find a lot of stories coming from Polish cities. Why? Because Poland since 25 years already is growing BPO and SSC society in many locations. In the very beginning there were only 3 cities which were encouraging investors to come and locate their business over there. But then, in the following years, new cities were appearing on the map of Poland, of the BPOs in Poland. And within that group, there are such cities like Bydgoszcz, for example, or another one, let me go through the pages of Outsourcing and More, or for example, Kielce. Then another one of Częstochowa, and then another one of Łódź, and another one of Lublin, and another one of Poznań, and finally, the last but not least, the full region of Pomerania. Yes, those are the cities who actually shared a great stories which are related to either BPO, SSC, IT, or R&D areas within their cities. So if you are in the if you are interested in getting more information of how all those business services are growing in Poland, or what is the how to say that properly, or what is the environment for the growth of those industries in those cities, you have to read Outsourcing and More magazine issue 55, because on those over 20 pages you can find out a lot of interesting stories coming directly from those industries, from those cities which I mentioned to you. So let's move further. Yes, we are already going to the end of the magazine, and this time this is the HR section. And in here there are few stories as well. The first one is coming from Antal. Antal is a recruitment agency, and here the author of the story is Artur Migoń, the vice president of Antal in Poland. What he wrote about? The title of his article is The Price of Illness in the Working Environment, not only during a pandemic. So, I guess that this is happening quite often, that people got sick. They go for illness breaks, I would say that like this. But What kind of impact does it have on business? What kind of impact does it have on the industry? Here you can read in the text of Artur Migoń from Antal. Then another great story titled "The Future is Flexible, Defining the New Era of Work." Sounds interesting. Yes, this one. Oh, it's quite long. It has already a couple of pages, and it is written by Adecco Group. Yes, Adecco Group is another company focused on the recruitment. They are a big worldwide provider, also with a great business story in Poland. So in here we can find out, for example, such thing that almost 8 in 10 C-level managers believe that business will generally benefit from allowing increased flexibility around office and remote working. Also, executive management see that employees will personally benefit from having increased flexibility around office and remote working. So, this is just one quote which I took from that article, but the whole story looks very, very interesting. Oh, another one. 49% of employees want to spend around half their working week remotely. Yes, so lots of such hints, tips, and stories you can find out in this article. And the last but not least story on the pages of Outsourcing and More magazine, number 55. Our organization does not stand still. Who said that? This was said by Joanna Czyżewska, leader in HR and payroll area at PKP Energetyka. PKP Energetyka is a shared service actually working for the public company located in 2 cities, in Warsaw and in the city of Łódź. And Ms. Czyżewska is actually describing how the organization is doing in Poland within these times, but also in the normal day. Oh, this is a great thing. Do you know that? No, I won't tell you that. I will leave it to you to go through the magazine and read it on your own. That's it. That's the end of the magazine. Very well printed, very well edited magazine. One more information. In Poland, there is a company who is named Ranvido. Ranvido is a software house, I would say, who has created an application on the smartphones which you can use, and you can use your smartphone and go through the camera of the smartphone and look on the various pictures. So the cover page of Outsourcing and More magazine has some artificial intelligence included inside. And by using Ranvido application, you can see that actually Peter Ivanov, who is on the front page of Outsourcing and More, is talking to you live. Yes, Ranvido makes this possible. Okay. That's it for today. This is how 55th edition of Outsourcing and More looks like. Now it is your turn to go to outsourcingandmore.eu web pages and get your free copy. I hope you liked today's episode of Good Morning BSS World podcast. If you did, why not to subscribe to my show on YouTube or any podcasting platform you use? Yeah, why not? Let's do it. Subscribe it, and in the next few days you can expect another story from BSS World, which I will deliver to you and to your ears. Thanks for today, and have a good day, or good evening, or good night, or enjoy riding your bike, or maybe walking, or maybe driving. Yeah, podcasts can be listened everywhere. Thank you. Bye-bye.